Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Today, we're going to talk all about prioritization and escalation. We're going to start with that first one. So let's go ahead and jump right into prioritization. What do you say?
Yeah, I say that, Sophie, not all of the security incidents that we might face are going to be created equal. So let's just pause for a moment in this episode. This is going to be very simple. It reminds me a lot of our episode on risk management. Let's just take a moment and be thoughtful about what kind of factors would cause us to prioritize some security incidents against other ones. This should help us, especially if we have teams that we can escalate to, right? So obviously, we don't want to have a situation where we are escalating everything, especially to some external team that may be costing us budget per incident. So we want to try and minimize that. So what I've done for us here is I have broken down prioritization into steps of evaluation, things we should think about when there is a security incident. For instance, what is the functional impact going to be? So there's a security breach of some kind. Is it going to have a functional impact on the organization? The next thing I'd like you to think about is it going to have an impact on the information and data that your organization is using? And then finally, what is the recoverability landscape look like? So you may have some kind of resource that is very easily replaced and very easily recoverable. What just popped into my head was the cloud story of Netflix. One of the really interesting things about Netflix when they started out in the Amazon Web Service environment was they were having their servers only live for about 24 hours. So the server is streaming someone's, I almost said Hunger Games, streaming someone's whatever, Wednesday, there we go, the delightful show Wednesday. So someone is achieving that content through that server is destroyed and a new one is stood up in its place every 24 hours. You can only imagine how recoverable a solution like that is. I mean, my goodness, if the machines are replacing themselves once a day, then if we have a machine under severe attack, it would be very easy to recover that machine with another one. These are the kinds of things that are definitely going to fall into our calculation of what might need to be escalated, what is a huge priority, and what isn't. Now, I wanted to go a little farther to help you in this area. And what I did was I put together for us very common, very typical kind of rating systems that we use for these three different areas. For example, if we are looking at the functional impact that a breach has had on our organization, we might rate it as none. So sure, there was a security breach, but there was no impact whatsoever on the functionality of our solution. This is music to the ears of IT administrators, right? Oh, something bad happened and nothing happened as a result of it.
Yeah.
We might say low. We might say medium. We might say high for the functional impact that some security breach had on us. Now, what about the informational impact? Well, maybe again, we got super lucky. There was no destruction of data. There was no tampering with data. So there was no informational impact. What about a privacy breach? So we might rate, we just had a privacy breach. There was some account numbers that were absconded with. This is bad. And we have a privacy breach type of rating. Privacy breach is a very different topic.
Yes, that's true.
Yes. How about a proprietary breach? So we might say, okay, they were able to obtain some proprietary information. Notice how that might be a step up from just a privacy breach. And then, yikes, things got really bad. There was a loss of integrity. And boy, oh boy, integrity is a big deal, right? That's part of that CIA triangle that we love. confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Integrity, remember, means can we trust the data? And you can see on this kind of matrix, if you will, how that would be really bad, right? When you have a bunch of data and there's been a security breach and you can no longer trust that data. Yikes. I can't think of much worse than that when it comes to an informational breach. Now, Sophie, on the recoverability, I really had to dig a little bit here, I'll be honest, because companies measure this in dramatically different ways. But I did find that kind of the standard way you might measure this is, well, there was a destruction of that virtual machine, and it's going to be just very standard and easy to replace that from a snapshot. So we would just say it's a regular old recoverability situation. How about a little bit more difficult? It might be supplemented. So we have to do some things, and then we have to get another department to help out to recover from the security breach. Here's one, extended. We may have to reach out to external organizations to help us recover from this situation. And then, yikes, this is the one that keeps us up at night. It is non-recoverable. So we've had a security incident and we are not going to be able to recover from it. You can see if you have a breach that hits these high levels of kind of ways in which we can measure the prioritization, then we might have to escalate. And remember this, there should be, and if there isn't in your organization, please work to make sure someone puts it together. There should be a very, very discrete set of escalation procedures that we need to follow. You don't get to just say, whoa, non-recoverable, huge information impact, major loss of functionality. You take it. You don't get to do that. There is typically a lot of documentation, a lot of procedures that must be followed when you escalate a security breach to another team. So make sure you're following that.
You say escalation and immediately I think like privilege escalation.
Yep.
Like a security concern, but this is obviously a totally different thing.
Totally different context. Yes. And thank you for pointing that out, Sophie, because I don't want anyone confused on that. We will be talking privilege escalation plenty in this course. That's bad. The escalation we're talking about here is good. We are seeking out expert guidance to help us with this security breach. Again, we don't want to do this typically, but it's great that we're able to do it. And, you know, Sophie, I'll tell you, it can be very tough for us IT folks to hand off a problem for someone else. You sit next to Nate, one of my favorite members of IT here, and you see how Nate is like, oh no, I'm fixing this. I've got to be the one that fixes this. It is human nature with us IT folks. We want to be the ones that fix that problem. Well, now I hope I've given you a real nice kind of blueprint for, geez, how do we prioritize these things and when would we escalate them?
Now, what happens with escalation when you're talking about dealing with a public cloud environment?
Oh, that's a great question. So a lot of times people think, okay, I'm in a private organization and we're going to hire this crack team of security wizards that can help us out. And they're, you know, not part of our organization. But as Sophie brings up, my gosh, what does the cloud do to this? Well, guess what? There is escalation paths in cloud environments today. And Sophie, I just had to do this. So I was maintaining an AWS solution for one of my clients. And sure enough, I'm very happy to say that this doesn't happen to me often, but I got stuck. I mean, stuck hard because we're trying to do something very custom. So I couldn't find in the vast AWS forums anyone that had run into this. So I was at my wit's end, and I am one of those IT types that, you know, after like 2 nights of little sleep, which I shouldn't have even done, by the way. And I'm going to be honest with everyone, looking back, I could have gone through this episode and it would have helped me. because I should have escalated it way earlier than I did. But the main line that I'm trying to convince you of here is, if you are with one of the big players, AWS, Google, Microsoft, IBM, if you're one of the big 4 public cloud users, there will be an escalation inside their support team. And in my case, I had to pay some money, very small amount of money, like under $100, but I was able to get a technical engineer on the phone with me, and they had it solved for me in under 5 minutes. So yes, Sophie, even though we may go to public cloud tech, there is going to be oftentimes a clearly delineated escalation path. And in my case with AWS, it worked out beautifully.
Okay. And see, like you said, looking back, this would have been a great resource for you to have. So there you go. That's why we do this, is so that you have these resources and that you don't have to think, man, I wish I would have had this. You've got it now. Isn't that great?
That's right. Don't lose sleep. Sleep is too valuable.
Yeah, exactly. So is there anything else about prioritization and escalation that we need to talk about before we go?
I'm just glad that we are talking about it, Sophie, because remember, a lot of times we think about the security landscape, and I'm speaking to those students that maybe haven't started their IT careers yet. And if you haven't started your IT career yet, you may think of like your environment of cyber these days as like, ooh, on Friday, there was a big breach. You're going to be seeing breaches every single day a lot of times. So this information about not treating everything the same way, not all security breaches are equal, I'm glad we're discussing that.
Absolutely. It's essential to talk about these kind of things.
It is.
Thank you for walking us through some more about prioritization and escalation, things we definitely need to know.
Awesome, Sophie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for hosting this episode.
Stop. It's my job. It's what they paid me to do.
And by the way, this is probably a great time for us to shout out Ryan, who's been our producer and director of this show.
True.
He's awesome too.
Well, I don't know that I'd go so far as to say he's awesome.
That's him. I love it.
I love it. Say that again. I'm sorry. I cut you off.
I just said thank you.
We love it.
Ryan's the best.
We love when Ryan comes in through the ceiling. Well, thank you to Ryan for directing these episodes for us. Thank you for teaching us. And thank you, of course, for joining us. We'll see you next time.